Okay, hello everyone. I think we are going to start. First of all, thank you all for attending. We appreciate a lot your time here because there are so many interesting sessions at this same slot, so we are very thankful that you are interested in this topic as well. So we are going to talk about the new Drupal navigation. That's something that we've been working on for a long time. And well, let's see what's the latest updates and future things to come in this topic. So my name is Pablo Lopez in Drupal.org, another social network. I'm senior backend developer at Lolabot. I'm the navigation subsystem maintainer and the Drupal CMS track lead for navigation. And well, thank you for coming and welcome.
And I'm Cristina Chumillas. You can find me as Sekrina Lulab at Drupal.org. And I used to be the UX lead for Drupal CMS, but now, thanks to Emma, that is the UX research lead, I will be able to focus on product design lead. So now I'm the product design lead for Drupal CMS. So I will be able to focus a little bit more on the day-to-day. So if there is anyone that wants to help on the UX side of things, we're welcome. We really welcome you. I am also one of the core front-end framework managers and UX maintainer for Drupal core. So we're going to talk a little bit about the new navigation for Drupal core, where we started, where we are, and where we will be. So first, we had the core experimental module finally for the first time in April 26 of last year. It had been a long path to get there. We did a lot of work doing prototypes. We did several designs, and we ended up on the thing that ended up being like the experimental module. It was a project, independent project, and ended up being an experimental module in core. And we're going to get more into details in the session, but now the navigation is the admin UI navigation for Drupal CMS. So it's a standard, or it's going to be the standard at least for a lot of things. So we don't use Drupal Starshot anymore. We use Drupal CMS, but it was like one of the first things that was clear that Drupal CMS was going to use was the new navigation. The goal and the why is because we want to empower site builders to easily build the best solution for each project. It means that it's not what comes by default with Drupal core. It means that it has to be easy to build the thing that the user at the end or the final user is going to be one to work with. And it means that the site builders, the people that is actually building the site, needs to be able to customize the things. And we wanted better defaults, probably, hopefully, eventually better instructions on how to edit everything. And we wanted actually to update the UI, the user interface, to the latest standards. That it's like not just in Drupal, but outside Drupal also. And it's actually the new navigation, one of the big improvements until Experience Builder came. And that's going to completely change everything. But it was one of the big improvements since Claro that happened for Drupal core. So this is a little bit, wow, accessibility and contrast, perfect. Wow. So at least the words can be read. So one of the big topics this is one of the things that we're going to still work in the next months, especially now that Experience Builder is going to come around, is the information architecture, meaning changing the whole structure on how the admin menu actually organizes the main links. But the project itself started with a lot of research on what we wanted, what were the standards out there. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We worked on new designs that we wanted to hopefully expand to the whole admin interface. We actually worked on a design system, although eventually when Drupal CMS adopted Gin, we had to adapt the design system that we were working on to actually use Gin. We also did a lot of user tests. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit more later. And we worked on the front end first before starting to actually build the module when we started working on the prototypes. So we were already working and refining the design based on the user tests that we were getting and the feedback that we were getting. And then it's when we started building all the backend and we started integrating everything with Drupal. And when we had something that made sense as a contrib module, that's when we started integrating everything in core. And then we started doing all the work that needed to happen to be part of the start of the Drupal CMS project. It was announced in Portland in last May, and actually it started. It became like in part of the Drupal CMS track in 2024. So it was announced that it was going to be, but it wasn't like an official track because we realized that a lot of work needed to happen to actually put the navigation in Drupal CMS. We thought that it was going to be okay. It's core, like just enable, and it wasn't that easy, obviously. So both Pablo and Mata Oliveira, that is not here, were part of the track team sponsored by Luot. So it was great to have several people working to make this a reality. But then Experience Builder came. And we all knew that Experience Builder was going to come, but we didn't know exactly which was the effect that it was going to have. Because we all thought, okay, it's going to be a place where people is going to go and edit stuff. But we weren't aware of all the things that were going to impact us. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. In terms of research and going a little bit back on time, we started defining what we wanted to do with the navigation itself based on defining which people were going to use the navigation. Because both the site administrators were going to use that. If you're managing a site, you want to use the navigation. If you're a site builder, you want to define what goes into the navigation. But if you're a content user, that's actually your way to move around. So the same place needed to solve problems for three different personas. One of the big changes that also happened here is the information architecture. We came up with a new menu that is shipped right now with Drupal CMS and the navigation. It's a module that it's a menu that it serves the purpose to put together all the needs of a content user. So it means that all the creation stuff, all the things, if you want to create taxonomies, if you want to create terms, if you want to create content types, we put all the things together into the create menu. And this is one of the initial, one of the first things that we changed. In terms of the user tests, we did 5 fronts of user tests, like testing the usability itself with users. And also we did a card sort to try to organize the information architecture and a survey to gather feedback from several Drupal users around the globe. We had a lot of feedback from a lot of people, and we actually were able to change several big things on the design itself. Initially, we were going to have flyouts on the navigation, and we completely changed. So we iterated a lot on the way. This is a story that it's interesting. So something that happened, so we initially wanted to have a simple way. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel. We did want to have a simple way to organize the menus that were going to be on the left. And what we said is like, let's just use something that we have. At the end, what we have on the left are blocks. So we said, let's just reuse what is in there for on the admin interface right now, which is the block UI, to just organize and drag and drop the different blocks that you want to use, because at the end you're putting blocks in there. And because we had a module that was a contrib, we kind of cloned the code. And the front-end, the framework managers weren't that happy with the code duplication, even though later it could go back to core. But there were several things that were like forcing it to duplicate the code. So there was an attempt to modify the theme assumption that the block, because obviously the admin interface, it's going to be around regardless of which is the theme you have enabled. And block UI actually works based on the theme that you have. So we needed to make some changes, and those changes were problematic. Actually, Lee Larolan, he actually made a long blog post explaining all the process for these decisions. But what happened is that the weekend before, so we had this deadline to get the navigation into Drupal core. And so the weekend before, like on Friday, we had this interface that I showed to you. And by the time that we arrived on Monday, we had this interface with Layout Builder. So Lee spent the whole weekend refactoring the admin the new navigation. He completely changed the code, and we came up to this new implementation on how to modify stuff on the navigation itself. It's basically Layout Builder, and so it's a developer making sure that things make sense on a developer perspective, but on the UI perspective, it actually doesn't make that much sense. So we want to make a lot of changes on how this works, but at least on the technical perspective, we are not duplicating any code. But this, I think it's a good example of how we iterated from the initial thing that we have at the beginning for the navigation to what is in there right now. Also, some of the research that we did, and it was like way before starting with the navigation, we already wanted to change the whole admin interface, and you will see that a lot of things in Experience Builder are related to that. So the way that we had the interface, it was like with the toolbar at the top, and then we had the sidebar on the node edit form. And we actually started like playing around on how we could actually make changes to the whole interface and the whole areas that we were actually we had available at the time. And that's how we ended up like deciding that the toolbar needed to be on the left, because it was actually freeing the space to put a lot of other stuff.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Great job. Well, I'm going to talk a bit about the backend improvements done lately after all this magic that Christina explained happened, and to try to put the foundations under the hood to make it work. So the idea here of this part of the session is that we've been working on improving the APIs and improving the performance. I don't know how many of you have already tried the new navigation in Drupal core, Drupal 10 or something like that? Good, thank you, good job. Well, so basically the thing is that visually almost nothing has changed in this part, but we have made a lot of changes under the hood, because I don't know if you have tried to modify it by code. Have you tried to do something besides that, enabling and say this is good, works? Good, great. But if you try to tweak it a bit, to customize it, yeah, it was a bit problematic. But yeah, we work hard, and we are pretty close to have it stable and to convert it into Drupal core stable module. So yeah, first of all, the disclaimer of the things I'm going to talk about is that have been merged probably during this year. So all of them are already in core, are already implemented, are working well, but are not usable in any Drupal stable version, because are things that are merged in the 11.x branch, and most of them have not been backported to 10.x or 11.1. So hopefully in May, June, when 10.2 will arrive, all these things will be a reality, and in the meantime, you can test them using your development branch of Drupal core. So first of all, let me remember a bit the different regions where the navigation is divided. So we have the icon. The icon is there. You have you can customize the icon, but this is something that is stored in Drupal settings. So config, that's all. You can remove it or put your own image. So yeah, that's all. And we have the content top region, that is that specific region that is managed by code, hooks, etc., that is reserved for modules that cannot live without the navigation integration. And then we have the content, that is what we have or you have had used in 10.x, that is where you can use the layout builder to drag and drop things, and the footer that is storing config, but for now it's hard-coded because it has some special behavior related to the scoring and so on. So for now, it's not configurable by the UI. You can do your hooks and your magic under the hood, but it's at your own risk. So yeah, let's talk a bit about how the different ways to put the content into the navigation. So we have the content top items are those parts of code that modules that cannot live with a navigation. You can think about workspaces, a module that needs to have that icon from where you can switch the workspace you are on, and you cannot disable it because otherwise you cannot use workspaces, environment indicator, or other modules that has to show messages like Umami. If you have installed Umami, you have that message that tells you, okay, be careful, this is for demonstration purposes, or I don't know, other modules, well, that add some messages in the toolbar in the past, now in the navigation. And basically, this is a render array that you can define in your own hook. You have the navigation content top hook. You have an example there. It's pretty straightforward. Just implement the hook and add a render array, and your content will appear in that region. Or if you want to alter, you have the navigation content top alter hook to handle that. And then we have the content part. The content part is where most of the magic happens. It's what you are more used to work on. But I don't know if you've tried to do something with the current implementation. There is some kind of limitation about the blocks that you can use in the layout builder approach. So you only have the ones provided by core right now, that are the shortcuts, the menu, and the user links. But well, using that hook for now, you can modify any of your blocks already declared and set my block to true, the allow in navigation flag, and that would work for you. This is a temporary solution. Once this issue here that ends in 882 will be in, you will be able to declare if the blocks are available in navigation directly in the annotation or the attribute that you define for the block. Well, once the blocks are defined and that can be used in the content, you can place them and handle them in different ways. Layout builder, so you have the ones that are already there, the ones that you can define, and use layout builder to drag and drop them. Just pretty straightforward, nice UI, all for you, users. And there are other ways for modules to integrate them. So with the arrival of recipes and Drupal CMS, there was a need for recipes to add blocks to the navigation directly when applying the recipes. So that's why we created the add navigation block config action. So any recipe, either in Drupal CMS or in any recipe that you use in the future, can use that add navigation config action, where you can define the blocks that you want to automatically add to the content region, defining the delta, that is the position, and the configuration. So it's that menu in the example will add the content menu with that content from recipe, label, etc. But yeah, this will make it work under the hood. The other thing that that we have is that there are modules that when you enable the module, automatically they want to place it. And then you can do it, you can remove it, you not, but you can do that. So we have a navigation defaults hook that basically you define an array with the same information that you did for the config action, because it reused the same code. That's the very nice way to reuse all the logic made before to give the ability. So basically, you have a module that provides a specific navigation block. You enable the module, and the navigation block is added to the navigation bar, and then you can export the config and will be propagated. Or if you don't want to have that block in your navigation, you can disable it from Layout Builder and let it go. So different options to add things to the navigation bar depending on your needs. And well, besides that, there are some other improvements that are completely invisible, but are there and are very, very nice from the backend perspective. So we have the user account block. So the link to at the bottom, that when you hover it, it expands the user options. Nowadays, it's a hard-coded list with 3 links that cannot be modified. But nowadays, it's a proper menu provided by navigation, so you can hide the links, add new links, add some magic in the menu that that link is visible only for this row, etc. Work with permissions, well, anything that is allows to configure all the things. And if for any reason you remove that menu, it fallbacks to the original 3 links. So, well, you shouldn't, because that means that you have done, well, dirty things, but, well, it works. The site is not going to explode. And the other thing that maybe you've not realized, or if you realize it's been broken the things not very badly, but you have some unexpected behaviors, is that nowadays, to handle the menu, Christina mentioned that we are created a new menu special for the content editors, but the thing is that to create that menu, to avoid duplicated links, we remove those links from the regular Drupal admin menu, that is the one that's being rendered. What we did at the beginning is just create a hook internal that completely removed those menu items. So that meant that the navigation was highly opinionated, because we were adding some menu that's nice, and you can use that menu or not, but you are destroying other of the menus provided by Go. Not destroying, but we are creating some alteration that could be unexpected by other modules, and in fact, there are some country modules that had some issues with that. Basically, what we did is to provide a new hook that, before any menu is rendered in navigation, allows to modify it without the need to destroy or to remove items from the original menu. So the menu is still there, but when you render it in navigation, you can have some control before the rendering. Sorry. And the adoption of Icon API is another of the milestones. We added it to avoid the CSS magic classes. Is more solid, robust. We are using actual images instead of CSS, and it simplifies the third-party integration. That's something that it's been introduced a couple of weeks ago, and it's a nice improvement. But yeah, it's going to be something to be very interesting in the future. And performance. We have made many internal caching improvements. We are using placeholders to take advantage of a big pipe module, so it's very good, the performance and how it's being cached, reducing the resources. And we are avoiding, using this approach, complex client-side caching that it's happening now in toolbar module that is doing some cache in the browser, and it could cause some problems, some other headaches. Using everything cached in the backend makes things much more simpler. And the thing is that from some of the things that we have done as part of navigation, not only navigation has been improved, the whole Core and Drupal has been benefit of this. We added this cache placeholder strategy to optimize render cache. Basically, the thing is that if you have a big pipe module enabled, you know that sometimes things start to pop up one after the other. So the thing is that things that are already cached are rendered directly. You don't need to create a new request. So it reduces the layout shift when you do this kind of changes. And well, that was a bit about the backend. Christina will tell you about how the new things about the frontend lately.
So in terms of the frontend, there are a lot of things that happen, especially at the beginning. As I was saying, a lot of the front-end work happened even before we started implementing all the backend stuff. But one of the big things that happened, and personally super proud of this, we don't have jQuery. It's just like, okay, 2025, yeah, I know, but Drupal core still have a lot of jQueries until in there, so that's a big deal. We're obviously using modern CSS, but everything is being moved to SDC. We have several SDCs there, which is great. And one of the really nice things is this safe triangle. This is a strategy that was implemented like years back. This is not new news. But so this is actually started, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. Amazon has implemented it for the first time. It's like a small UX improvement that it has a huge impact on the speed that you can actually move around. You're actually on an admin interface. You want to move around fast. And the thing is that if you want to move from a structure to the top button at the top, you are actually hovering other stuff. So basically, this is like creating this safe space, this safe triangle, which is basically calculating the place that you're going to go. And this doesn't trigger the event to hide the menu. It seems a small thing, it seems obvious, but it actually made a big impact on the UX that it had. Also, on an accessibility perspective, we have a meta issue, and this is actually try to comply with all the core accessibility gates, and those are the requirements. So we are invested on making sure that the default admin interface for core is accessible. And on that meta, we're opening constantly new issues. And I don't know, there's been like more than 10 issues for sure that have been fixed already. And the top bar. Well, one of the big things that I'm not sure if you remember that before that I was saying, is that we moved the navigation to the left. Moving the navigation to the left actually like freed the space at the top to do a lot of stuff. And as you've seen probably in a lot of competitors, other tools all over the web, as I was saying, we didn't reinvent the wheel. And basically, we moved the navigation to the left because it's a big navigation, it has a lot of information in there, and it was proven that navigations with a lot of information in there need to be on the left because you have more vertical space to actually see all the things. And then actually that freed the space at the top to have the main actions. And on a UX perspective, this is great. On an implementation perspective, it takes a lot of time because it's actually it's changing a really important part of Drupal, which is the node edit form, and a lot of foundational things that we had both on the front-end themes, on the back-end themes, so it's basically changing a lot of things. When we started defining all these things, we were super lucky to be part of like the whole team at Lulabot. We were working together, or the design team, we were working together on defining where the things were going to be placed. And Jared Panchat, he defined this organization of all the regions where all the things were supposed to go, because the thing is that you want to have always the things on the same place as long as you move into several pages. So this basically became some kind of like direction to define where things were going to be placed in a lot of ways. So this is the initial design that we came up with, and again, contrast. Anyway, so on the left you have the navigation, and on the top you can see that you have the button, You have like the preview button, you have more actions, and on the left you can actually go back to the content list. You have the last time it has been saved. So you have, if it's published, so you have a lot of information that is contextual to the page. So basically we decided that the left navigation was going to be a site-wide region, that it was going to keep stuff that was going to be accessible during the whole time that you are on the navigation, and that's going to stay in there. While the top bar is actually going to be something that is going to hold contextual information. It's going to change based on where you are. And then Experience Builder came. And they said, wait, what? Left navigation? No. So basically, at the top left, you actually have a button to go back to the general admin interface, but actually Experience Builder, what it's doing is taking you into Experience Builder mode or editing mode. And it's actually taking you to a completely different interface with different tools, different purpose. But if you can see it, it actually has a top bar. So it's like, okay, we have similar things, let's work together on coming up with a strategy to actually not confuse the users. So if it wasn't enough, we also had Drupal CMS. For Drupal CMS, we're using Gin. So let me explain that. So let's see. We have Drupal Core. Drupal Core comes with Claro. Claro is the default admin theme. It was a big new, like, I don't know, some years back. Then Drupal CMS said, okay, Drupal Claro hasn't evolved that much visually over time because Core goes really slow, and Gin has actually been able to evolve on a design perspective. So just let's go and take Gin. So Gin is used on Drupal CMS. Claro is used on Drupal Core. And then we have Experience Builder with a completely different interface. Then navigation is going to be used both on Drupal CMS and Drupal Core. We want to have the top bar, but the top bar is actually something that also Experience Builder has. So we basically needed to come up with a strategy to make sure that all the different parts were perceived as the same thing because we are still in Drupal. And it seems like nice, there are some circles, it's easy. No, it's not easy. It's really complicated to sort out things, to sort out what one people want to do, what the other people want to do. We had several meetings, and several people had different ideas. We ended up coming up with a strategy altogether, which is the good part of being part of a community. You sit down, you talk, and you negotiate what is better. And actually, we ended up coming up with this top bar. This top bar has the front-end stuff. So in here, you are not inside Experience Builder. In here, you're actually outside Experience Builder with the thing that you've been editing inside Experience Builder. And you have this top bar in there. So this top bar is going to be the same if you're inside Experience Builder when you're looking at a page that you've edited with Experience Builder, or if you're going to a basic page and maybe you're not using Experience Builder in there, or maybe you have a block and the block is using like classic CKI editor or something like that. So whatever you have in the edit form, the front end is going to have the same top bar. And depending on where you're going, then this top bar is going to take you to either the classic edit form or the Experience Builder form. As you can see, something that is in there at the middle is like the status, if it's published, and the title of the page. That's something that we imported from Experience Builder. We didn't have that in the initial designs for the navigation, but we considered that it made sense. It was an improvement. So from the initial organization of the several regions, we are still keeping the top bar as something that is contextual, but we reorganized several things. So the user is going to have actions on the right and more actions and like advanced editing or like delete or whatever you want to do or translate. And in the middle, you have the title and the state of the page. And then on the left, you will have like extra stuff that you can do on the page. For example, you can see that one of the things that we did is like move like the contextual actions, local actions, sorry. The local actions, we moved the local actions to the right, where redefining exactly like each of them how are going to be in there. But the thing is that they are hidden. They are not part of like the buttons that you have visible. But that's good because it's not overwhelming the user. And this is actually a screenshot that I took like a few hours ago. So it's already implemented in Drupal core. But this is Claro. So there is an issue for Gene to actually integrate the new navigation top bar because it means that we don't have that on Drupal CMS yet. So the top bar is enabled by default when you enable the navigation nowadays with Drupal core and Claro. But with Gene, Gene is not actually, because Gene had its own top bar, because when we defined the designs years back with Sasha that were going to be Claro in the future, we already had the idea of having this top bar and left navigation, but he like moved on his own path because obviously Claro and Core were going super slow. So Gene actually implemented its own top bar. So basically now, it's like they have to remove the top bar that they have, integrate the one that it's coming from Core that has some assumptions that Gene wasn't doing. So if you want to contribute, there is work happening here already. There's, I think, it was a few weeks back, the last commit, but it's like something that is actively being worked on. And your turn.
Okay, thank you. Well, so yeah, that top bar, it's been a path. But yeah, as you perfectly mentioned, Christina, the thing is that navigation is an experimental module in Drupal core, and we have the funny thing, and probably I don't know if that happened in the past, that we have within an experimental module we'll have a part that is even more experimental than that. So we could get, well, it's like a kind of recursion. So basically, to get the navigation module in core, the core committers told us, okay, maybe this is not too ready, the top bar yet. So we had to create a submodule, created navigation top bar, that basically enabled and disabled the top bar with a disclaimer that don't use it in production yet. Even at some point, it was when all these new changes happened, it was hidden and it was not possible to enable it from the UI. So basically, at some point, so you have an idea of how things have changed along the process. But well, we are now very close to consider navigation stable, and even we can announce today that the top bar could be considered as experimental, like the rest of the navigation is not like in alpha state. And last Friday, while we were writing those slides, so that's not true anymore. So we have the top bar enabled by default when you enable the navigation. So that's a huge milestone for us. That means that big part of the job is already done. So thank you. Yeah, let me talk briefly about the architecture. So the top bar, as you said, is like a container where you can define some items. And those items are plugins that you can define in your module or wherever with a render array. And then we have some smart CSS that handle the visibility of all the things. So if there are no available top bar items in a specific page, the top bar is hidden. So that's all. And it's divided in 3 regions. So you have the left to right, you have tools that are things that you can do in your page. In the initial design, we have that mode to change, to preview the page in desktop and mobile mode. The second part is the context. That's what Christina mentioned, that you have the page title and the status where it is for the content entities. And the other one are the actions, that are the actions that you can do with your content entity. That is basically if you are editing a node, the tabs that you have above the node are converted into a drop-down with all the same options. So it's just a replacement. It's exactly the same content placed in a different place. And yeah, so that was all. Basically, with core, we are shipping these 2 top bar items for the actions, the page actions that, well, is you are moving the actions to that drop-down. If you have enabled content moderation, you have the latest version. If you have translation enabled, you have translate, layout, if you have layout builder, etc. So this is right now is for content entity type. So if you are working with commerce, you will have any product action is there, it's automatic. And it gives you the possibility to feature some actions those actions that are featured, instead of appear in the dropdown, appear as a button to do it directly. Nowadays, by default, the edit button appears when you are viewing the entity or when you are viewing the later revision, if you are using content moderation. And the page context basically is quite similar for content entities. It shows the title and their status if they implement the moderation interface. If you are enabling content moderation module, it not only shows the current status, also gives some extra information about, okay, you are viewing the published version of this node, but there is a draft available for you. But well, it's basically some extra information. And for the tools, Core is not providing anything, but for Drupal CMS, there will be a country module that will provide the content for that. And well, if you have a module or anything and you want to add in content for a top bar item, the only thing that you need to do is to create a new plugin. You have a very simple example with a class that implements that attributes top bar item, where you define the ID, the region, where you say, okay, you want to put in any of those 3 regions, and yeah, and the render array, and that should be all. The only thing is that you please, if you write any of them, be very careful with the cache stuff, because well, otherwise we could have some unexpected behaviors as always. But well, in the top bar, it could be more visible for you. And given that it's a plugin, you can use anything that you can do with any other plugin in Drupal. So you can use the alter hooks, you can change the weights. If you want to change the order, you can hide them, removing the annotation from there. Well, anything that you can do with any other plugin, it can be done with them. If you want to mess with the ones provided by Core, extend them or whatever. And yeah, we've talked about what we had in the past, what we've been working on, what we have now, and let's talk about the future milestones we have here. That basically is the high milestone is the stability, is to have navigation by default in Drupal core. That's a high milestone. We are closer. We have it in Drupal CMS, and well, it's being used in many places, not only Drupal CMS, many other sites are having it there, but for that, we need to mark the module as stable now. We have a few issues yet to have it stable, but well, the goal is to have them by May, when 11.2.x branch is cut, and will need to be there. And then open a new meta issue to handle it once we have the module stable, because you can imagine the amount of things that need to be done to replace the current toolbar. So you need to create many issues for modules, to disable the other module, to enable this module by default, upgrade paths, etc. So that will be fun, but well, I hope that will be there by 11.2. And not only this, the ecosystem of modules related to navigation is growing. In core, we have some integrations for other core modules like shortcuts or workspaces. We have the dashboard module also in Drupal CMS that integrates with it. Environment indicator to move the environment icon to the top bar, sorry, to the sidebar. Navigation extra tools that add some nice features like clear cache, run updates, run cron, etc. from the navigation, or navigation menu role that gives some flexibility to show the different menus depending on the user role. Imagine that you don't want to show the same information to all the users in the bar. And yeah, let's talk about Layout Builder a bit again. Layout Builder is always there. Well, Christina mentioned that in a weekend we changed the whole architecture, did a great job from blocks to Layout Builder, but now we have Layout Builder and Experience Builder. It's going to maybe kill it. So yeah, what's going on? What's going to happen with us? We don't know, to be honest. So one of the ideas is to try to get rid of the Layout Builder dependency, because it also has some secondary effects, like Layout Builder was not thought initially for what we are using it now in navigation. It was thought, well, to manage the page content. So there are some frictions here and there. One of them is that while you are editing the navigation, you cannot use the navigation. So you are stuck in that page. You need to use the breadcrumbs or change the URL if you want to go out of that page. But well, let's see. We need to think if a new UI for navigation, go back to the blogs, go back. Well, that's something to be defined, but well, that's a problem for the future. And yeah, some other new features we are working on, and hopefully we want to have them before going to stable, is to support more levels. Nowadays we support 3 levels. People is wanting to support more because we always want more things. But yeah, well, that's something that there are parts of core that might need to have that extra level. The allow to customize the top bar icons, not only the top bar icon of the database, also we need to think about the icon API theme, to extend it or how to integrate it in a better way to allow other modules and themes to provide their own icons. And one of the other things is to convert to SDC all the things. So nowadays, we can say that navigation was the first module that introduced SDC, that used SDC in core. And we have nowadays only the buttons, or each of individual item of the navigation is an SDC. And well, we have another meta issue to SDC all the things in navigation. And yeah, if you like it and you have any ideas, there are many ways to help. There are many issues in core. You have a couple of meta issues, or just check the issues marked by navigation.module in Drupal core. And if you have any country module you are a maintainer, or any country module that you are using in your projects that has any kind of toolbar integration that is not working yet, or you think that could be nice to have it integrated with the navigation, let us know, and that will help us to do the things and because well, while working on some of the modules, we have discovered some needs and other new features to the navigation. And if you do it now, before navigation is stable, it will be more likely that we'll have the power to add new APIs to navigation to support it. And yeah, test, suggest improvements, and you can find us in Admin UI Slack channel, or these days in the Admin UI table at the sprints. And we'll wait for you on Thursday in the sprints.
No, I just wanted to add to that. If you had any integration with the top bar or the navigation, just let us know, because we've been working with several country modules to provide them with designs. So we are happy to help anyone that wants any kind of integration with the top bar or the navigation to help people come up, because usually it's mostly developers that won't know how to integrate things. So just let us know. We're happy to help also, not just with the code, but also with the designs for making sure that things are integrated properly.
Yeah, they do much better design than us. Yeah, thank you for coming. Well, if you have any question, more than welcome. Yes?
Will you put this slideshow in the Slack channel?
The slide.
The slides? Yeah, of course.
Will you put this in the Slack?
Okay, yeah, we'll add it to the Admin UI channel. Thank you.
Yeah, on the same line, do you have any documentation, or are you planning on writing any documentation on how to use all these, all the hooks, all the things that you saw?
He asked about if we have any documentation about this. Probably the most complete documentation that we have right now is this presentation.
We do have a page for documentation for that, but because all the efforts started to happen to move all the documentation to somewhere else, we said, okay, let's not invest the time on that. So we have that documentation halfway, and everything is going to be moved somewhere else. So.
Yeah, most of the things that we have shown regarding the APIs and so on happened this same year, so have happened in the last 2 months, and so yeah, probably the most complete documentation right now is this presentation, but yeah, we need to improve only the documentation as well. Thank you.
When you put the navigation on the left side, you create a lot of space from the top when you move it there one. But from my UI developer teams, it pushed the whole thing to the side because we have it on the left and other things coming. So did you notice that problem from your side? We noticed that one in our side.
So I'm not sure if I followed you. So basically you're saying that the navigation, when it is enabled, it pushes?
And it's put on the left side, so the whole side is getting pushed to the right, so the whole thing is not being visible. So it gives some trouble when he's creating the UI for the side.
So the front, you're talking about the front end.
The front.
So, okay. We've tested that on several sites. And what we tried is to come up with a CSS that was agnostic and also protected from anything on the front end within the navigation itself. But what we didn't test it is how the navigation itself could actually affect the front end, because it's basically using the, the API. So, how la cosa que abre?
Yeah? The settings tray, you mean
the settings tray. So the settings tray, so basically we're using a library that is in core, that it's basically making things smaller, and it's like if it was an iframe, it's basically making the space that you have for the front end smaller itself. So in theory, it's not counting for the viewport of your CSS. The navigation is not counting on the CSS that you have on the viewport for your front end, meaning that it should not affect, it depends on how the front end is created, but it should not affect, if you have any kind of calculation, how it affects the front end. And that's the theory. And if you're having troubles with that, I would love to see it, because the theory, clearly it's not applying in your side. So we thought about that. We never saw any kind of effect of that.
I'll show you.
Yeah, I would love to see that. Good job. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.